Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the GonzoEwok channel with me, Gonzo, for part 2 of our brand new series, or next to brand new series I should say, of RimWorld. If you've watched the last episode, you'll remember that all we did last episode was create the world and create our 3 survivors. We have Schroeder, we have Havoc, we have Lumi. We dropped down on the planet, we paused the game. I didn't pick up on the fact we've got a little cat, a female cat called Puddles. How lovely. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a bit of a look around the map. I'm going to talk you through the UI very quickly, just in case you haven't played the game, you're not 100% sure of what's going on, and then we'll make a start. So if we zoom out, this is the map. We can make maps much bigger, but this one should be big enough for our purposes. You can see that we've got this kind of dry land, little patches of sand kicking around. Then we've got rocks, we've got some compacted machinery over here, so that'll give us components. We also have some compacted steel, quite a nice little deposit of that in this mountain here, which is quite nice. We've got some rams, we've got an ostrich, and yeah, last episode we also found we've got some elephants, which is quite handy. We've also got some of these little shits, boom rats. Little bits of pests, but they'll explode when we kill them or when they die. So we've got to be careful about how we go about hunting those, or if some of them go low. Oh, got some silver, which is quite nice. So, having a bit of a look round and getting a bit of a feel for the map instantly, I'm thinking we do need to have a nice patch of the soil that we've got here. You can see down in the bottom left over here, we've got an area highlighted. We've got some soil, and the soil is 100% fertile. However, if we go over sand, sand will only give us 6% fertility, so we can't really plant much on sand. What I'm trying to get at is we're going to set up a little bit of a farm so we can grow crops and be self-sufficient, and the way to do that is to have a nice little patch of soil that we can use. What I'm feeling is that we've got a nice little patch here where we can start growing. We could make a little bit of a wall here with a gate on it, which will protect us from things coming along. We could also wall off some of these areas if needs be. To give ourselves a little bit of a compound here, we also have a pre-existing building made of steel. Now, if there's nothing in here, and sometimes you can have, you know, stuff that's hiding in here that we can't see, there's just fog of war on the map, but that's actually a little pre-built house, which will be quite nice for our first couple of nights, while we start digging out some rooms that we can use in here. This isn't going to give us a big base, but it's going to let us get some pretty decent protection, and some pretty nice little sort of cabins that we can use to actually start setting up our colony. Quickly running you through the UI, you can see we've got our 3 survivors. Up at the top is a little hotbar. There's also a little tutorial button, which is really handy. This kind of learns as you're playing the game about what you're doing and what you're not doing, and prompts you with hints, which is great for new players. And then at the bottom we'll have the different tabs down here. So if we've got architect, this is where we can build stuff, whether that be items, whether that be structures. It's also where we can give orders, so we can tell people to mine stuff, tell people to pick stuff up, harvest plants, chop wood, hunt, all the rest of it. Work allows us to prioritise who is doing what, and at the moment it's just a case of saying, well, do we want Schroeder to be a doctor, yes or no? If we hover over, Schroeder has a skill of 6 here. Lumi can't. Oh, Lumi can, but doesn't have any skills in it. And then Havoc has a skill of 4. We'll say both of those would want to be a doctor, for instance. Bed rest and patient. If somebody's injured, they'll seek rest. They'll seek medical attention. Obviously, we want those on. Flick for different switches, and so on and so forth. What we can also do is we can turn on manual priorities, and you can see now we can say, well, if we make something priority 1, that means they're always going to try and do that where we have orders to be getting something like that done. So, for instance, if we say Schroeder, we'll say you be, say, 3rd, so you're not really that concerned with it. Lumi is a hunter and is a pretty decent shot. We might say, well, every time we want something hunting, she's going to drop everything else that she's got here that we're expecting her to do and go straight out and do some hunting. To be honest, we'll refine that as we get going. I'm just going to leave things on here for the time being, and we're going to say, right, Schroeder is the gardener by far. She's going to do that. We haven't got anybody who's particularly good at mining. We are going to do some mining, so for the time being I'm going to say they should all do that. Where you've got skills in doing things, or passions in doing things, I'm going to turn those on as well. Where's hauling? Everybody's set to haul, everybody's set to clean, which is important. Those 2 as doctors. Construction. 3 and 4. These can both be, that's Looney and Havoc. You can be we're construction team. Yeah, I think that's looking okay for the time being. What else have we got? We can set different zones. So we might set something as a zone and say, well, only animals are allowed in this particular area. So we could do that to say set up a farm. More likely we would set up a home zone, and that basically means if any fires break out, the colonists will react to that. They'll see that as yep, we need to put that fire out. As we start construction stuff, the game will work out what we're kind of setting up as a home zone, but we have got some control over it as well. A lot of this will make sense if you haven't played it as we get going. We're going to get a quick review of our animals. So we'll have a cat. I mean, a cat's not as exciting as having like a timber wolf or some of the more fantastical creatures. We could have had a pet elephant, for instance. But we'll take a cat. We're going to need to feed it. We're going to need to look after it. One of our colonists will probably form a little bit of a bond with the cat. And then from there can start training it. And that can be quite a nice thing. And then we've also got our research. So once we've got a research bench, this is new for the current build 16, where it's actually presented more kind of like a, I suppose like we would consider like a civilization style tech tree. It used to just be a kind of a list. This is quite nice though, because it shows you if you unlock something where you know what's going to come up next, basically, so you can kind of plan ahead. The world button, this is new, and this actually lets us see what's going on. I believe it's from here that we can set up caravans, and we can start visiting other people to do trade and potentially attack them. Got colony history, so we can keep track of different things, so things like wealth, happiness, the population, and what have you, to see how things are going. We'll review that from time to time, I'm sure, but at the minute, obviously, there's been maybe seconds of the game played before I paused it. We can look at the different known factions. This is quite cool, so we can see that there's a tribe and a pirate band, both absolutely hate with. There's also a somewhat friendly tribe and two, I suppose, sort of city-states, if you like, or townships, which are fairly friendly with we. And that's quite handy to review as well, so we can look over that from time to time. So, first things first, where have we gone? Where have we gone? Where are we? There we are. Sorry, I panicked. What we need to do is start getting some orders. So, first things first, there is berries on some of these plants, and there's also agave. That's a good source of food to get going, so I'm going to set a little order there to start harvesting that. Don't want to chop them down, just want to start harvesting them. What we'll also do is we'll set up a stockpile zone, and I'm not particularly worried where this goes. We will get this sorted in a bit more detail later on. Since that's just stone, if you like, we're not going to plant anything on there. That's a good place to put a little stockpile. And then if we go over these resources, you can currently see the little X's next to them, means they're forbidden. It means that we're not touching them. And all I'm doing there is I'm just hitting F on them to say, right, these are not forbidden. We can actually interact with them. And now that's basically going to tell my colonists that this stuff lying around here, we'll want to gather up here. Leaving it out in the open isn't particularly great, because things will get rained on and, you know, will start getting damaged. But, you know, as I said, this is really just us getting ourselves set up. So, Lumi, bring up your character sheet. You've got a shooting score of 11, you've got 6, and you've got 4. Congratulations, Lumi. We've got a rifle here. That's now yours. Schroeder, congratulations. That pistol's yours. Havoc, as a backup, you've got a knife. And there we go. Everybody will start collecting everything up, and as you can see, Havoc, busy doing his harvesting there, while the two ladies then go and start hauling stuff up here, which is nice. This structure, we're going to claim it. We want to say this is ours. What I'm also going to do is, because we've claimed this, I can deconstruct a part of this, give an order. Hopefully somebody will go, knock down this, and if there's nothing scary on the inside, we can build a little door here, and then we've got ourselves a little room made of steel, which is quite strong stuff, as you can imagine. That'll be quite nice. Lumi's being sick. That's not good. Health. Cryptosleep sickness, so that's just a side effect of being in one of those sort of sleep pods, if you like, on the ship before it crashed. That'll wear off in a while. Just means she's in a little bit of a bad mood. So, See how things are going. There we are. Area revealed. We've got ourselves a little room. It's got metal tiles on the floor, and we've got a steel wall, which is very nice. So that's actually quite a good start. When I first downloaded Alpha 16, I thought I'll just load it up and give it 5 minutes to see what it's like. Didn't see anything new though, because I had one of these areas somewhat built into a mountain. I clicked on it, opened the door, and it said, oh, be careful, there's some sort of ancient danger potentially inside. You've got a bad feeling about this. I opened it, there was 2 hives full of spiders, which I managed to clear out, but lost 2 of my 3 survivors. The 3rd survivor then saw that there was a sort of a sleeping casket in there, opened it, and there was a nutter in it who then basically finished us off. So I lasted all of 5 minutes there. The game is... there's a rat. There's a rat. We don't really want a rat running around in here. But we'll leave it there for the time being. We're going to, first things first though, build a door. You'll see as we're collecting stuff, putting it into a stockpile, we are collecting steel, we're collecting wood. We've got some meals. That's not very much food though. We are going to need to get that sorted. It's a decent supply of medicine, but that is going to start dwindling fairly quickly. And of course, one of our characters does have asthma, so they're going to be dipping into that to keep themselves healthy. Got a little geyser here. Later on we might be able to set up a little power plant on that, because we will need to generate power as we start creating powered items within the game. Lumi's going to do a little bit of construction there, which is nice. Build up that door. While we're building up that door, we will want beds, but for the first night, if we go to furniture, we can build some sleeping spots, and these are literally just designating this is where you're going to sleep. So we'll have 3 down on there, and that just means at the end of the day, when these guys need to come and sleep, this is where they're going to sleep. It's going to be as uncomfortable as all hell, because they are literally just sleeping on the floor, but we will sort that out. We'll give them their own rooms, we'll give them beds. This is just somewhere where they can go for the time being. It's Lumi having a bit of a snack there. Havoc's still busy. It's getting some berries together, which is nice. So yeah, that's not looking too bad really. We have got so much that we need to do, but I'm thinking we'll start designating some of this where we're going to start mining. Designate this where we can start mining. Havoc's came along, he's building a door. Now actually looking at the shadows as we can see them moving there, it looks as though this is open. But Havoc, yep, Havoc's putting a roof on it, which is nice. That means it's enclosed, it means we've got a little bit of shelter from the rain. Lumi's having a bit of a nap. Yeah, so sure, you can see there's that little pop-up just saying asthma's playing up a little bit. But there we are. There's also a squirrel in here. Actually, where did the cat go? The cat's going to be a house cat, so we talked about zones before. Zones. Say, right, so this is the home area. I'm going to say this section here we'll consider home. If we go to restrict, no, where do we do it? So under animals, animal area 1, I'm going to tick that. No, actually what we'll do is we'll say that Puddles, the cat, is only allowed to be in this area here, mainly in the house, and then can go around outside as well. Cats are carnivores of course, so is going to want to eat. It would be really nice if Puddles came and decked that squirrel and ate it, or that rat if it's still around. Havoc and Schroeder having a nice dig there, collecting some bits and pieces, some steel. So yeah, we're looking okay here. I know I'm moving around a lot, but I do get a little bit shifty when I'm playing this. As soon as we've got this section here dug out, I think probably what I'll look to do is start plotting out maybe some tunnels that we can start digging. I'm quite liking the idea of maybe just coming in here and then branching off and then start building some rooms. Each of the colonists, generally they'll want their own room, they'll want to have them decorated. If I hover over one of them, for instance, if we'll go to, say, Havoc here and look at his needs, you can see what's happening. Very Sims-esque. Everybody's got little slider bars. I'll tell you what they're interested in. A social bar. And see the relationships that the characters are forming. We'll look at their gear as well. They've got clothes. Their clothes will wear out, so we'll need to make sure that we can find a new source of clothing for them. Potentially find them some armor as well. We've seen the character section there. But generally what we'll see is, there we are, that's what I was looking for. Ugly environment. You can see it's a little bit of a mood debuff because they're standing there with, you know, bits of rubble all around, bits of steel. It's not a nice place. Eating without having a table is affecting their mood. For the time being, you know, we're doing okay. Mood generally tends to be alright early days. But that will soon start to degrade as people start sleeping on the floor, as people don't have somewhere to eat, as supplies start running low, people will start getting a little bit twitchy. So what we want to do is start giving them a decent room that's got decent furniture, comfy bed in it, and that's basically doing all that we can to try and keep people's mood up, because as people's mood starts to suffer, they'll not work as well, potentially they'll start fighting, they could potentially even just leave the colony, or they'll go off on like a kill crazy rampage, and we don't want that happening. Everybody's collecting the steel here. While they're doing that, actually, another order that I should give is to chop some wood, and we've got a patch of wood up there, so we'll designate all of that for being chopped down as well. That'll give us a little surplus of wood, because shorter term things like furniture, things like beds, as you can see, things like doors, I'm probably going to make out of wood rather than steel. Why? Because steel's got a lot of other uses, and even though it's tough, it's not probably the best building material when you're first starting out. Certainly because we've got so many trees, and of course trees are renewable, they will keep growing. Steel is going to be more useful probably for things like armour, things like weapons, things like some of the facilities that we'll have to build as well. So while we're getting all this on the go, we mentioned before we should also set up a little bit of a growing zone. Just trying to plot out kind of where I want things. If we're going to have a door coming in here, that should be quite a nice area there. Just quickly pause the game. And what are we going to grow here? We've got a list of different crops, plants, trees even, that we need to grow. We're looking for a decent crop that can sustain our early doors. So something like rice. It's a low-grain plant which thrives in rich soil and yields food fast, which is handy, but it's not nice to eat uncooked, as you can imagine. So it will yield a lot, it'll grow quick, that might be a good starting point, but we will need something to cook it on. Something like corn's maybe a good go as well. Takes a bit of time to grow, but it yields lots of food, and takes a long time to spoil, which is handy, of course, in this kind of environment. Food will go off, so we will need to set up refrigeration as well, potentially even a freezer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up some rice. That's going to be the short-term quick fix, get something together, and then I'm going to set up a second zone, same size, just next to it, 6x12, and this growing zone is going to be well longer term, so we'll have corn. Potatoes are handy as well. A lot of people start with potatoes, but I find rice and corn works nicely. As I said, rice will give you that quick fix. We'll set up maybe a little bit of a cooking station in here, when I remember where it is. As I said in the last episode, it's been a while since I played the game, so I'm just trying to remember where everything is. We could make a campfire to cook on. I'm more inclined to production. Electric stove, fueled stove. We haven't got electricity yet. Fueled stove, we can use wood. I'm going to put one in here for the time being. I'll take 80 of our steel, but that at least gives us something to cook on. That'll be quite handy. So we have 3 beds, and soon we'll have a little place to actually cook up some of this rice once we've got it. Of course, we might have to do a little bit of hunting as well. We'll have to get some meat. Don't want to go and kill one of those elephants, even though I'm quite looking forward to dining on elephant meat and getting some elephant leather. I think that'll be a hell of a fight trying to take one of these down. But the thing is, you can imagine, if we kill an elephant, yes, we'll eat very well for that day, but then the meat on that elephant is going to go off. You know, the temperature currently is 28 degrees. Can you imagine a rotten elephant sitting out in the sun on the sand? It's not going to be very tasty in a couple of days, is the point that I'm making. Not without having a fridge where we can take that meat and keep it cool and, you know, potentially freeze some of it up and make it last. I mean, a squirrel, on the other hand, it's not going to give us much meat, but we could eat that. That's bite size. Puddles the cat, technically bite size. If it really gets to it, there is a button to slaughter him. Actually, while I'm here, we don't want to slaughter the cat, but what we might want to do, if we can... No, typical friggin' cat, can't be trained for obedience, can't be trained to do anything, it's just going to wander around. That button is looking very tempting, Puddles. That's all I've got to say. Right, we've got a stove. Let's see, we're planting little bits and pieces here. Because we've dug up a couple of the bushes there, We've got some agave fruit, which is nice. Agave fruit, it's not refrigerated, but it'll keep for a while. Keep for a full season, and then a little bit more. Deteriorating due to not being unroofed, so it will start going off. If that's the case, what we want to do, I know we're doing mining here, but sooner rather than later we need to get ourselves a little bit of a stockpile together. I'm thinking, yeah, what we're going to do, I'm going to come up here, I'm going to mine there. No, OCD. Must be in the middle. There's going to be a little doorway, and then you're going to come in through here. Once we've got that mined out, that's where we're going to make our first stockpile. Potentially later on, we could turn that into a little bit of a freezer. Now, the mechanics of how that works, you'd need thick walls, you need to put a refrigeration unit in there, need to make sure there's a door. And the game's quite sophisticated in what it'll do. If you're constantly walking backwards and forwards and opening that door, and that's a refrigerated area, the temperature will start increasing. But you know what? We're not worried about that right now. All I want to do is the stuff that's lying out here. As you can see, it's deteriorating. These resources have hit points. It's slow, but I don't want my resources sitting out here. I want to get rid of this stockpile. And this is just going to be a dumping ground. We can't order stockpiles, so we could have building resources going into one, food going into another. All we want to do, though, is get stuff out of the wind, the rain, get it out of the sunlight. We'll build a little door up here. Where colony will kind of exist down here, and then there's probably going to be a little corridor that we'll have internally, which will lead them up into the storage facility. But right now it looks as though everybody's having a bit of a nap, so we'll speed the game up just overnight, see how things are going. Not a bad opening here. Not a bad opening. I'm feeling good about this. Feeling fairly confident. I'll take a little puff of my electric fag just while we're waiting for things to take over. Lumi's up. Just wondering, what are you doing? Just going for a walk. I mean, there's shit to be getting on with, I'll not lie. But, yeah, just wondering. Okay. Doing a bit of mining. I'll take it. I'll tell you what, I think we've got quite a few orders going on. We'll mine that later. I'll just cancel that order off. Finish mining that up, get that dug out, take away that stockpile and get everything shifted in here. I'm quite liking the fact we've been quite lucky in getting, you know, this nice little sized room. It's been handy just to have somewhere for them to stay, really. I might give them a bit of light for the sake of 20 wood. We'll put a little torch in, produce a little bit of heat, it'll light the area. It'll use wood, basically, as we're replacing the torches. As you can see, we can get standing lamps, we can't get electric lighting, but we're not worried about that particularly right now. Temperature indoors is 16 degrees, same as it is outside, but we'll put a little torch in the corner just so there's a little bit of light in there. Wooden bed will cost 35 wood. I'm tempted, just so they're getting a better night's sleep, to put some wooden beds in here, just to get them going. So what I might do is I'll take that apart, and I'll give an order. When these guys... It's the wrong way. No, that'll not do. When these guys wake up, we'll replace their little sleeping spots. Cat's sleeping outside. So there's a point. Cat. There, you can sleep in there. Rotate that round. Getting the torch built. There we are, a little bit of light. Yeah, that's looking alright. Looney's doing all the work while these two have a lie in, I notice. Yeah, speed things up. There we are, built a bed. So we can destruct those two. Get another couple built. Having some breakfast. Break up! Oh, Havoc and Lumi. No longer in a relationship. It lasted all of 2 days on this planet. Well, you know, I mean, it's a stressful situation. What I've learned is your relationship probably wasn't great to start with because, yeah, I mean, 48 hours on this planet, you know, it seems a little bit harsh that you would have just broke up that soon, really. The only downside to that for us is that, of course, it means that, you know, potentially there's going to be some issues here in terms of needs. Now, I'm not seeing it, but I'd expect to see a little bit of a debuff there. Havoc hasn't got one. Lumi has, though. Havoc broke up with Lumi. It's obviously pissed off Lumi a little bit, so our mood's taking a bit of a hit. And if we go to social, yeah, they're not getting on anymore. Ex-lover, They crashed together. He dumped her, so she was not particularly happy with him. And he had an annoying voice. Looney, you could do so much better. You and your lovely purple hair, going out with that edgy little bugger with a Mohican. He doesn't know what's good for him. He's lost the best thing that he could have had. Schroeder, meanwhile, gets on with the planting. Rice plants are starting to grow quite nicely. This will yield a fair bit of food for just these three colonists. So again, it's imperative we get something set up and get these guys a stockpile. Get a door. Chuck a door down on there as well. Must speed things up. Ostrich. It's 11. It's healthy for now. A little bit of steel up there. At some point we'll collect that up. So how we're doing? Now, I mean, in theory, we're out of food here. We've got a couple of the packaged meals, you know, or at least in our stockpile anyway, there's no food. There's still meals there. There's some of the berries that Havoc harvested yesterday. We've got food grown. So even though, I mean, this is only telling me what we physically own, what's sitting in our stockpile. We do know that there's food elsewhere. If things get really bad, we've got a pet. We've got a squirrel running around in my base. That's not even our squirrel. I don't even know why it's here. I might go and kill it, possibly, and then cook it up. Bit more steel. Collect that up. Yeah, I mean, we could take out an animal if we need to. So I'm not particularly worried for food for the time being. It's much more important we get this, get the storage side of things sorted. As you can see, things are fairly slow to get going, but don't worry, more people will start showing up. Friendly people, potentially people who will join or want to trade. People will turn up and want to attack with. So there's a lot that we need to get done here, but the game usually, if you're lucky, will start you off quite gently, just ticking things along. But we'll see how things go from here. Usually after a few days, somebody will try and join your colony, and then a couple of days after that, somebody will turn up to attack. Right, got that mined out. Orders, no, zone, stockpile, everything comes in here, and right, get rid of that zone. So what I want to do is get everything hauled across. I'll let them finish off this last little bit of mining. So we've got the steel. Looney's starting to collect some wood up. And just chuck that in the stove. It's handy. Havoc's chopping down this cactus. Wood! Cactus wood! We've also got these marble chunks in here, which we've kind of generated as we've been hollowing out in here, which means obviously this is all marble. Probably why it's taking them a little bit of time to dig in. Quite strong stone, obviously marble, but a bit tough. But these are taking up valuable slots within our storage. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to create a bit of a dumping zone. So a dumping stockpile zone. We'll just chuck it up here, I think. And if we click on this, let's see what's actually allowed on this stockpile. So at the minute we chuck chunks of stuff, so stone, which is handy. Corpses would go there. No, we're not worried about that. Any kind of corpses we don't want to worry about. And rotten stuff would go there as well. So if there was any food, not that it's allowed. Allow smeltable weapons. Nah, this is purely just for to chuck bits of rock. I'm just going to build up a little bit of a rock garden in here. Right, I'll tell you what, will that work better? So I've designated those as hauling, but it looks as though in any event, Schroeder's recognised that it's not ideal. We don't want these things in the stockpile zone here. As you can see, chunks are disabled on this one, but they're enabled here. So it's quite clever, really. There's a lot of sort of underlying, almost kind of like using logic and reasoning to plan out these things, almost like doing like a little bit of programming. So it's kind of like if X, Y, and Z. Oh, the cat has killed something. Puddles has killed the squirrel. Body. Scratched it. Bit its tail off. Yep, and she's now munching on that. So that's done me a favour. That squirrel was annoying us, running around in here. Having a good old eat. Have you left anything for us? bit off its head, bit off its tail, bit off its front legs. Right, okay. Missing 30% of its body. Okay, we're going to cook up the rest of that squirrel. So we'll click on stove, go to bills, cook a simple meal. Do we cook with squirrels? We don't cook with human meat. Don't cook with insect meat. But yeah, we're saying cook a simple meal. Details. We don't want to cook many of these, so we'll do until we have... We'll do until we have 9. We'll just have that sort of bill, that order, if you like, sitting there in the background. And it just means that when somebody hasn't got anything else to be doing, they can go and cook up some meals. They'll use some of the berries, some of the agave fruit. They'll use cat with agave fruit. Sounds like the food of kings. But what we'll find is it just means that we can hopefully get that used up and turned into a meal. It'll not last long, which is why I'm only saying make a few meals to last throughout the next couple of days. But once we've got a refrigerator, we'll want somebody almost cooking full time, taking all of the fresh produce, all the stuff that we're growing down here, turning that into decent meals, and then getting that, you know, fridged or frozen up. That'll be pretty cool. So, what do we do next? We've mined that out, we've got this planted, we've built a little stockpile. I think we're sitting fairly pretty here, if I'm honest. Not doing too bad at all. This has been a half-hour episode, so what I'll probably do, guys, is I'll call it here. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any tips, any pointers on what I'm doing wrong, if I've missed anything or forgotten anything, let us know. You can like the video if you've enjoyed it. You can also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow on Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff, and we shall see you in the next one. And goodbye.